you all seem to talk about this a lot. Remember what keeping us apart is actually designed to do. It is not designed to fill our pockets up. It is not designed to empower us. It is designed to empower a system that will take us all down if it could, right? Like a system that is right now trying to walk itself back so that we lose some of the momentum, the successes that were born out of the hands, literally out of the hands and the suffering of the women who came before us. So that's something that we should walk away from here knowing we are certainly more better and more powerful together than we are sitting on opposite sides of the table, carrying all of the things that we may or may not have been conditioned to know about each other. We will be more economically powerful as well as women if we were to ride with one another.
Welcome to Drinks with the Girls, conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Drinks with the Girls. I am the luckiest girl in the universe right now because I have two of my favoriteest people in the world that we're going to be talking to today, and I'm so excited for this episode. So we are going to be talking about some stuff, y'all. I'm not even going to get into what date it is right now and kind of where we're at. Everybody can kind of extrapolate that on their own. But suffice it to say, shizzle is going down in the world, in social media, in like all the stuff. So you all won't need any help identifying kind of the time and placement for this. I'll just leave it at that. But we wanted to kind of dive into some stuff that I think the world wants to drag onto that stage, but we would really like to get back to the human condition on. And I have been wanting to have my friend Bri Martin on this podcast for freaking ever, so she's here. It was like the landing at Normandy to try to get all of our schedules in one place, but here we are. So first, we're going to talk about what we're drinking. So as my dear friend Karen said, I got a Starbucks. Oop, there we go. It is a pumpkin spice oat milk latte. And if you'll notice, I've got the pumpkin earrings and the whole thing. And this is why. It's because I am protesting fall. Now, I know you're wondering why in the world I'd be protesting fall, but it's freaking freezing cold here. It's raining. I'm not ready for this. Like, if I could have a pumpkin spice margarita, I would. So I'm trying to trick myself into like being in the fall place and be happy. So far, it's not working, but I'll let you know when that kicks in. So,
it's been like Karen, in the high 50s here, so fall is nowhere to be seen, and jelly. So I am rejecting the pumpkin spice situation until further notice.
Okay, so I'm gonna guess you are not drinking something pumpkin spice like my love.
I am not. I am drinking my normal go-to basic biatch black coffee, but it's not so. Oh, I do have some collagen and peptides in there too.
Alrighty then.
Joint health is important.
Not at all.
But it's not so much about what you're drinking, but it's the mug that it's in.
Oh yes,
so
it is.
I am using my daughter made this probably 15 years ago, personalized K mug.
So. Now,
are you drinking your Four Sigmatic stuff that you love?
Nope.
No, okay.
It's actually Donut Shop.
Nice.
That's literally the brand, Donut Shop, yeah.
And then you threw some zhuzh in there.
Threw some zhuzh, but the zhuzh has no flavor. It's just collagen and peptides, and yeah.
All right. Well, any part in a storm. So I would like to introduce the incredible Bri Martin, who we're going to get into. She's going to tell us what we're drinking, but just kind of set the stage. So Bri and I worked together at my day job for a long time. and then she cheated on me and left me, sadly, and to go be a senior freaking vice president. I mean, who would leave to go get like a ridiculous promotion and run a brand new division at a company? I mean, like, come on, So I miss her desperately, which is why I'm bitter and angry. But I am so blessed to call this woman my friend. She's one of the smartest freaking people I've ever met in my life. So welcome to Drinks with the Girls, Bri. Tell us what you're drinking and give us a little like who you are, what you're about, kind of thing.
Oh, I love you so much, Lisa. Thank you so much for having. You're always so fun. Like, well, I will say, when Lisa is like in her work, like in work mode, and the pressure is on, she's brimstone and fire.
That is true. That is true.
She's brimstone and fire. And I tend to love women that are like that. Like, I love all the women that people say, oh my God, she's so difficult, or this person's going to be hard to work with. I'm like, oh,
bring it on.
That's my playground. Like that.
And I think that's how we got to know each other, because we'd be in these meetings and I'd be like, oh, that's my people. Like we'd say like similar things and I'd be like, oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Say the hard things. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just don't leave and go say the hard things somewhere else. It just makes work like literally impossible.
Yeah. So you can imagine how popular we were in meetings.
Yeah. So, well, I'm drinking, and I agree with you, Karen. It is about the mug. It is about the mug. I have a little Mason mug, and it's pink. If you can't really tell much right now, but it's like a bubblegum pink mug, which I just got this weekend, yesterday, I think, at Home Goods, because that's like my favorite thing to do on a Saturday. Whenever I say I gotta go run errands, I don't go with anybody else. I go by myself. I leave the man and the kid at home, and I'm like, see you guys, I got errands to run.
So that's called self-care.
That's called self-care. It is. It definitely is. And I'm not a big alcohol drinker, so in this glass is some apple cider.
Yum.
It's just apple cider. I'm not boycotting fall, Lisa. I'm all about embracing the fall. I am totally in Texas, and like fall just won't fall. Like, it won't land. Just like land, it's still sweltering outside. It's still really hot. But our local grocer, HEB, I love HEB. We all love HEB in Texas. And so fall season, certain specials come back, and apple cider is back. And I was so happy. I was like, oh my God,
yum.
It's time. Yum. Let's change the curtains. Let's do it.
Back when I had like space and time, we used to do like apple pressing and stuff. Oh my God, it was so good. It was so delicious. But yeah, that's not going to happen this year.
Yeah. So
there's no
apple pressing.
Oh, well, you press the apples and they turn into cider. So they're these big wooden machines that you turn this crank and it smushes them and smushes all the yummy, delicious cider out of it. And you can either have it fresh, like Bri's drinking right now, or some people ferment it and make alcoholic cider out of it. But it is delicioso.
Got it.
So,
all right.
We get big
learn something new every day on Drinks with the Girls.
Every single day.
There's your learning. So maybe I'll just kick it off a little bit. Bri and I kind of talked a little bit about this, but so like we said, our friendship really grew from this idea of working with each other and just really enjoying each other, right? And as friends do, our conversation at some point just has drifted in and out of different parts of the human condition and what it's like to be human on this planet. And, talking to someone that you love and respect, and stuff came up, right? And some of the things that came up were different experiences that we had both had growing up in our skin color, growing up in our geography, growing up in our generation. And it was interesting to us to kind of have these conversations in this time where everything has been kind of heading for this giant meltdown. And I remember saying to Bri something to the effect of, how can I be an ally? And she kind of took a big breath and she said something that really stopped me in my tracks, and I loved it. She goes, you don't have to do anything. Just be a human. Just be a freaking human. And I was like, we make this so damn complicated. right? And Bri's going to talk a little bit about kind of her background and you know, the things that she's experienced along the way that make it complicated from her perspective as well. But I was like, you know what? I'm so sick and tired of being scared about this topic. These are two people that I love, and I'm just going to sit down and have this conversation. And Bri was down for it. She really, I think,
Yeah.
wanted the opportunity to kind of have this platform. So we're just going to get into it and sit around and have some drinks and chit chat.
Yeah. I think it's such a good topic to have when you have like women friendships sometimes too, especially like, groups of women when you have a group of friends, because women, we could be really crass to each other. We can be really hard on one another. And that's just as women. And then you layer on the different intersections of our identity, and it makes it more complex. Even within your own race, you'll still find that there are things that certain women like, and so they gravitate to, or they look down on other women because of, when the truth is that we have so much more in common than we do that is distinct.
Yeah, just that Venn diagram of different pieces, but at the center of which we're all women. We're all going through this human experience as women, and in that kind of section of it, we have very common experiences in a lot of
Yeah.
cases. Not every case, but in a lot of cases.
Yeah, yeah. And I like that we talked about like just looking at this topic in both ways, right? Like what we share, that is real, and then also how do we respect what is distinct? Because my lived reality, my lived experience, well, let's say my lived experience is what creates my lived reality right now. Like it creates my lived reality, who I am, what I believe. And so, as a Black woman, there are differences in the way I've lived and experienced this world, society, than a white woman has, than a Asian woman has, than an able-bodied woman has. So we do have very distinct lived experiences, and we bring that to the table. We bring that to the table in our relationships, and we see it like no in especially working in corporate. I think part of what excites, if I could say excites, but what resonates with me about this topic is corporate America really is a beast on this, right? Like it is a beast on women, it is a beast on Black women, and it is like an accelerant to something that's already there. Like it accelerates what, and I guess we got to talk more about this too, right? But it's an accelerant to some of the things that you've learned in life, your experiences in life, the experiences of people that you love, like other women that you love and care about, what you've seen in your life. And then you go into corporate of America, and all of those things come right up in almost every interaction, especially in the harder interactions. And that's where you have a choice to make about like, what are you going to hold on to that is true, what are you going to toss? Because relationships forged in the workplace are imperative to our success, so you have to find a middle ground. But it does take some grappling with some, how do they say, like deconstructing of these things that we sort of earned along the way.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we love to talk about the patriarchy on this podcast, and we're going to dive into that at a certain point. But, like, I mean, that is a very real thing for women in the workplace. And Bri and I were talking about this last time we talked, and it was like, as a woman in corporate America, you've always got to kind of keep that construct in mind, because frankly, the way corporate America is structured is very much about the patriarchy, and you are being asked
It
to
is.
fit into that mold. It is not
Yeah.
expected to bend to you. You are expected to bend to it if you want to move up, survive, like whatever, right? And you know, Bri alluded to that before, just in terms of my brimstone and fire kind of tactics, right? But as a woman, I
Mhm.
have to consistently weigh, should I open my mouth? Should I not open
Yeah.
my mouth? Is this a
Yeah.
wise place to take my stand or not? And I know Karen deals with a lot of the themes like that in her work, right? I mean, Karen, I'm sure you talk to women all the time that are like, well, I mean, we've talked about this. It seems so good right now and everything's fine. I don't want to speak up. I don't want to rock the boat. Like, there's so many of these, kind of like Bri said, these constructs that aren't really artificial. Like, I wouldn't necessarily call corporate America artificial, you know, corporate America, marriage, like all these different kind of places that have very specific kinds of structures to them. And we've all got to decide how we're going to respond to that. So I don't know. I'm going on one of my famous squirrels, but
Yeah,
No, it's good.
yeah, yeah.
Squirrel. And I think, I mean, I'm just so curious because I've never been in corporate America. I've been in education.
Oh,
I was a stay-home mom for many, many years, and now I have my own business. So I've never been in corporate America. And I just like just to hear you talk about it and just what I know about it. I mean, it just feels like a weight. Like it just feels like, and to your point, Lisa, like it's the same in marriages as the same in relationships. It's like I can't be who I am. I have to censor myself or I have to make myself smaller in order to work in this system, this system that we've all been raised in. How do we break out of that? And I love what you said, Bri, earlier about it's like forming connections. So how do we know, who to form these connections with when we are so afraid of like speaking our truth, I guess.
I guess we start there, right? Like, I know I was raised by my mother is disabled. And so from a very young age, I learned how to help my mother, right? Like how to help her in the house, how to be her ears, how to be her eyes, how to be the second mom in the house. That meant that when we had to go for like social service appointments, I was there. I was sitting with my mom. And this topic made me go back and think about like my childhood and where I started to learn about how women treat each other. And this would be the first place. I saw, because and y'all will probably agree with me, like most of these like social service jobs, particularly in the 70s, 80s, they were held by women.
yep.
Those were women held jobs. So I go into these offices with my mom and we want to get some food assistance or we want to get health care. And women would be treating women so badly. I mean, the way they'd speak to her, she says, I can't see this form. Can someone help me fill it out? My daughter's only 7. She doesn't know all of this stuff. And it's like, well, we don't have anyone. And I'd see how women spoke to women. And that was my first sort of, core memory of how power and gender work in tandem, right? Like these were women who had power to render something that I know my mother needed, and how my mother would then posture to make sure, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it was a very contentious relationship. Then you layer on race. And it may and you as a child, you start to say, oh my God, it's this kind of woman that is going to be someone that I need to be mindful of or careful with, because that kind of woman held so much power over us. So you go back to where it first starts. Like, I'm not sure if you all have a memory of where you first started to learn about the relationship between women, but that was my first, like, and I had others that I think happened at the same time. I don't want to go on a tangent, but I had others that happened at the same time, but that was one of those, that women can be very contentious with one another.
Yeah. Now, remind me and forgive me, you've probably told me this, but was your mom a native English speaker, or was she also having to learn the language when she moved here?
My mother's a native English
Okay.
speaker, so
Okay.
she
I
spoke.
couldn't remember if it was French or something else. So, okay.
No, no, no. My mom, she speaks English. So
What?
thankfully, she didn't have to learn how to speak English
Yeah.
as well. That would have been another, you know what I mean? Another
Yeah.
layer on your identity.
That's kind of what I was wondering as well. Yeah, I mean, I think we all experienced it in different ways. I mean, like Karen and my mom were besties, as everybody knows. They were both English majors, right? But the way I kind of remember them describing kind of growing up in that atmosphere at about the same time, it was, and obviously they were white, so there are different things that they didn't have to experience. But I do remember it wasn't really like, hey, there were all these jobs that you could do, right? You could be a social worker, you could be a teacher, or maybe a nurse, right? Those were kind of the options. So our parents both went to college. My mom was not the first in her family to go to college. My father was, but she still was a teacher, and Karen's mom was as well. Karen, I can't remember. Was your mom like one of the first to go to college in her family, or what was the dynamic there?
Yes. Yeah, she was. Yeah, and honestly, like I didn't even think about that till this moment. She was an only child, but her parents did not go to college.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
And
But it's true. It's like at that time, the doors that were open for women were the helping professions,
yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my midlife reclamation guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers!
Karen, I'm not going to speak for you, but I know that one of the things that your mom went through later-ish in life was this idea of being divorced, right? And then remarrying and figuring out that, oh gosh, this is problematic as well. But the factor weighing in of, I don't want to be divorced again, and what kind of a social construct that is. Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know that that was something that was very difficult and weighed on her as we're talking about women's roles in society and what we bring to that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because as a child, you don't recognize what's going on at the time. Like Bri, when you're sitting on your mom's lap in the office, it's like you're just totally being conditioned in this moment. And my mom died when she was 51, so I wish she was here so I could have like these more adult conversations with her. I didn't even think twice about her being a single mom, us having to go down to pay the light company so we could keep the lights on, a couple times. I don't know. I just like you're just a kid and you're just kind of like absorbing all these things, right? And it's not until you become an adult that you reflect back and you realize how all of the things, your gender, your race, your socioeconomic status, it all impacts, who you become, how you think, the way you move through the world, especially now with the way that things are, everybody is just, it's the world's on fire and it's activating. I think for a lot of us, it's like how do I continue moving through the world knowing what I know, but also knowing that maybe some of my conditioning is impacting how I move through the world and not
It's,
in a great way.
yeah. Yeah. I think it's the same thing today that was then that caused this the fracture. Is fear. Is fear of the other, is fear mongering that someone is coming to take something from you, right? Like that's at the crux of this, is like something belongs, well, not something, an intangible thing, like freedom, like liberty, like your inalienable rights. Like these things are at risk if you don't hold on to it really tight, because those people are coming to take that from you. And that couldn't have been that is the biggest lie that has been sold to American people. That's the biggest lie that's sold in any kind of like authoritarian or, politically oppressive environment. But we're speaking about our conditions, and we're all American. That right there is probably our number one issue. And then you start to divide or go down the line of other things, right? But at the top of it is this idea that this belongs to a particular type of a person, so no one else should have it.
And it's interesting because if I add my lens to this discussion about how I was raised, there's a whole other layer here, right? Karen knows this. My mom was a Christian Scientist and raised us Christian Science. So I was not vaccinated. I didn't go to doctors. I had dental cleanings, but that was it. And so I, as a young girl, was very aware of being different, right? I knew that there were things that other people did that were just childhood things that I didn't do, and that there was a very specific reason. And I also had this very kind of specific feeling of being other, that I was different, that my mom was very different and made choices that a lot of people did not approve of, even in her own family. We would butt up against this, like going to school, like vaccination records. When we moved overseas, that was a whole big thing. Like, was she going to get us vaccinated to go overseas? My cousin recently moved to town and we were talking about different things. And she said, yeah, I remember it was a whole big ordeal in the family when your brother was diagnosed with an eye condition, and everybody was freaking out thinking your mom wasn't going to get the surgery and things like that, right? So I've obviously grown up and made my own decisions, but I think the through line here is we're all reflecting on our experiences growing up and individual things that we observed in power dynamics that were evident in the day, right? And I mean, I think for my mom, the conversation existed a lot among women because that's who she was interacting with, right? Nurses and school people and all that, and continually saying, nope, that's not what my children are going to do. And I had no power in that situation. I didn't have the power to be like, yes, I want to be vaccinated, or no, I didn't. So that was kind of an interesting paradigm for me growing up. But I think that we all have very, very different situations, but I think what we're literally talking about is that power access and how that's reflected, right? And Bri, kind of how you were talking about, like, I always think about the image of pie, right? How all of the thing is in the pie. You got to make sure you're going to get the slice of the pie, and you got to make sure that there's enough pie, because if somebody takes some of the pie, that means there's less for you. And people like to put, like you said, these big concepts into this container of there's not enough. So that sets up the somebody's taking it from me kind of, I don't know what you want to say, paradigm.
And that breaks down allyship. So I think there's
100%.
one, like the right. So the first part that we're talking about is, as it relates to this sort of big question, why, how do you find ally? How do you do allyship? How do women do allyship? There's one piece where it's like, how are we conditioned? How we model today for young women today, how women behave is so imperative. It's one of the imperatives to getting us to better allyship. How we as the adult women treat each other, because younger girls are watching. The 7-year-old Bri is watching and forming an understanding of this concept, this gender concept of woman and how women work together. Then there is the other layer, is the historical context for our existence. And that's sort of where I went. Like for me, I had this conditioning, right? I saw a lot of things. I also grew up in a kind of a biracial household-ish, right? And so not a kind of biracial house, but I have a biracial family. And so I had other interactions with women that were other than me racially, but the same as me culturally, that countered some of that narrative. And it really made me want to understand more. And so this is where understanding the historical context is important, because when we think about allyship between Black and white women, it is important to remember why we even have to have this conversation. And historically, the movement for women's liberation, for women equality, was not inclusive. It wasn't truly inclusive, right? Like, white women gained the right to vote, I think, almost 2 decades before Black women gained the right to vote, and did not go to bring Black women along with them in that fight, right? We were left outside of that. Certain archetypes of Black women were created to support the patriarchy, right? Black women post in antebellum Black women, let's say that, were still subjected to some of the same violence that they endured while enslaved. And so what became the justification for sexual violence against Black women was, well, they are just lascivious, right? They fetishize Black women, they sexualize Black women. And that is what we call the Jezebel, the archetype of the Jezebel. And white women help to reinforce that. They help to reinforce this narrative that Black women were just were just hypersexual and could not control themselves, and they would be the temptation of other men. And I'll also say, like, that stereotype was not just specific to Black women. Asian women got the same kind of stereotype as well, right? When we went from now to support the labor care industry that was created when we needed to bring Black women into our homes to be the nannies. They could no longer be sexual beings anymore. So we created the mamie. White America, we created the mamie. And there's a very popular Black filmmaker whom I love, but does get so much heat from the African American community because of the movies he creates. They're so funny. I love Medea movies. Right. If you've ever heard of Medea, it's Medea is my dear technically, but it is the idea that there's this heavy set Aunt Jemima looking Black woman in the kitchen, and she's just a cooking away, and she's taking care of the kids. She's actually asexualized. She has
This
no
is Ty-
sexual.
this is Tyler Perry we're talking about. Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same wavelength. So
We are. I want to say, but this is asexual Black women, because now having that image, that archetype of a Black woman made it okay to bring them in your homes. It made it okay for them to be your wet nurse, to nurse your children. So again, when we think of when asking ourselves a question today, we're only asking ourselves a question today because as three women of different racial backgrounds, we recognize that there is a fracture between us, and that we tend to form friendships with who looks like us. And it's more easy to do that, right? It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but more often than not, you hear the I'd rather be with, befriend this because I don't trust. And where does that distrust come from? It is not just because someone's mom told them when they were a child, hey, look, don't trust them, don't do that, or because a white mother said those Black girls are not it's not just that. There is an actual historical or several historical constructs that predated why we function the way we function today.
well, and I think about, I mean, how you and I met, right? Which I think forms a lot of the basis of our friendship, right? Like, let's get real. Like, just from a geographical point, right? You live in Texas. I live in Oregon. You went to different schools than I did, right? We didn't go to the same college, the same area. The chances of us, like, even being in the airspace together, we're
Very
not,
small.
we're very small.
Milch.
So the
Yeah.
fact that we came together because we were working between departments on projects and we had to work together, and we were put in positions of representing, say, different states and bringing that to the conversation, and we had to kind of work together, that gave us this like commonality of space and time and intelligence and opinion. And then our friendship came from that commonality in a lot of ways, right?
But
But
wait, Lisa, it didn't just come from that. It didn't just come from that. Can I
true.
jump in there?
You may, and
Jump in
that's
there.
right. You're true.
It
You're
it
right.
it also came from it was an unspoken decision that we both made, right? And the unspoken decision that you made was, I'm going to be accepting of any woman, period. You
Okay.
made that decision. Like, at some point in your life, you made that decision. That's who you are. I made that decision as well, because we could stay in our little bubbles. We could stay with all the things that we were taught. We could continue to operate with the mindset that That person cannot be trusted simply because of where they're from or what they look like. But it's a choice we make, and that is at the crux of how do we do allyship. You don't do allyship, you do humanity. Did you
Yeah.
decide at some point you want to be the person that's, I'm just going to, I will embrace anyone. Like, what are your values? Do you lead in life with a certain set of values that allow for that moment when Bri meets her Lisa and Lisa meets her Bri, that there can be a true, authentic, genuine connection that's founded on mutual love, respect, and dignity.
No, you're 100% right to call me on that. And it's funny because it never occurred to me that it was a conscious decision. Like, that's just kind of steeped in my DNA, right? Like, that was never,
Yeah.
right? You know what I mean? And so, and it's not this, and I just have to call this out because it makes me crazy, this whole like, I don't see color thing, which is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard. It's such a
Yeah,
cop out
that
in a
one.
way to like view life, right? It's like, oh, I like Mexican food, therefore I'm culturally relevant. Like, what in the world, right? But you're right. And for me, what you're talking about was not a conscious decision at all. So that was part of my DNA. I came into this experience with that as part of my identity and my being. So that wasn't even like in my
Mhm.
radar, right? It was all about like, yes, we have these commonalities because we're in these meetings together, and I really like this girl. I like this girl. She's hilarious. I love her. She's smart, right? And that's where it started off. But I also think that especially in relationships, let's just be honest, with white women and black women, if there isn't that, what's the word I want to use, that housing, that construct, that opportunity, right, to kind of start that way, all this other crap gets in the way and our preconceived notions take over, I think, in a lot of situations. And what is
Yeah.
emphasized is the otherness and the tropes, like
Mhm.
you're talking about. Not, we have to like fight against that rather than just be
Mhm.
human and meet people on a human level. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I kind of think that that's what we're dancing around here. I don't know.
Yeah, no, no, no. I agree with you. Do you ever feel like, as and I like as in the body that you live in, like that you have to prove that you're like, I'm one of the good ones.
Oh
Do
yeah,
you ever get that feeling?
all the damn time, all the damn
Yeah.
time. And I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, I I'll be careful with that one for myself because I I don't think that black women are bad, right? Like I don't think that, first, like let's norm something here. When
Yes.
you have like the patriarchy is upheld by by racism in a lot of ways, like that thing. And racism is something, it's not, racism is not to be confused with prejudice. Racism is not to be confused with stereotypes or discrimination. It's a different thing. It's a power thing, and power is not just inherently, it's not held by minority groups. So you don't have, right, like when I come to the table and I say I feel like I have to prove I'm one of the good ones, I know that the people that I am a part of are incredibly magnificent. I know that. I think what I is in corporate America, what I have to prove is that, and I'm going to use the term that's been thrown around lately. Not that I've ever thought about that term much before, but I'm not a DE&I hire.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying?
Preach. Please preach.
I'm not a DE&I hire.
I always
Oh,
crack up when I hear that because I think in my mind, it's like, first of all, and I don't want to go down the road of what's happening currently. I don't even want to slide down that slope, but
Mhm.
it's like, I feel like, especially Black women have to work 4 billion times as hard to be in these positions, like to get where a white man would get just,
falling out of
just
the
by being a
sky.
white man. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's like, to when I hear people say, "Oh, because," okay, I'm just going to say it, the whole thing that's going around right now with, the black pilot, right?
Oh, yeah. And the brain
Yeah.
power.
Oh, that person had to work 100 times as hard as
Yeah.
as a white pilot would, right? Like,
I think so. So yes. So let you're right. You're right, Karen. But finish your thought.
I mean, my thoughts are all over the place right now, girl. Let me tell you. Let me be honest. Because
Yeah.
I am so excited for our listeners to hear this conversation, because first of all, it's a new one for us and maybe for them. And honestly, like, and I want to say, I was like Lisa, like, I feel like it is in my DNA just to look at somebody as a human and be like, hey, if we vibe, I'm down, you know?
Vibing. Mhm.
Right. But also, it really wasn't until 2020 that I took a step back as a white woman and had to really look at what I thought, what I felt, how I was interacting in the world as a white woman. And that whole term of white privilege was new for me, right? I mean,
Mhm.
because I thought up until that point, it's like, I'm a good person, I love everybody. But I had to educate myself on exactly what you were talking about a while ago, about these systems and about what racism really is. And I mean, I had to look at the fact that I held racist ideologies and things because of how I was raised as a white
Yeah.
girl growing up, and a white woman. And so, and that was really hard. Like, I had to sit back and go, whoa, like, look at the ways that I've not been like outwardly maliciously racist, but that I have
Yeah.
supported the oppression of Black women unknowingly.
Hey there, I'm Lisa Corachella McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. And I'm beyond excited to tell you about my membership for maxed out mamas just like me, the Empowered Parent Collective. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it's that implicit bias part
Yeah.
that I think
Yeah.
is really in the forefront right now. And people get pissed off. I'm not biased. I remember being at a conference, and a woman, I don't know like what her nationality was, but she was Muslim and she had a hijab on, and she was talking about like how she got into this place and this and that and the other. And one of the kind of power brokers in the company came on and she said, oh, she's so wonderful. She goes, I don't know about you. What those women said to her was horrible. My friends and I would never do that. And I was just like, are you fucking kidding me with this? Like, really?
Yeah.
Really? Like,
Yeah.
that's what you lead with? Like, you are just completely putting yourself above the fray and saying, I could have never done anything that would be awful like that. And it makes me crazy because it's like, it's this, God, I don't even know how to say it. It's like this flag that white people wave to say, like, we could never be as screwed up as that. Nothing we've ever done has ever offended people, has ever like marginalized people, right? And the concept that you have to be actively engaged in marginalizing people to make it true is a very sacrosanct concept to a lot of people. And getting into the weeds of, I marginalized someone and I didn't even know I was doing it. Right? Because we want to have fault and we want to have blame. And to have that, we feel like there has to be a consciousness of the action. I don't know. We've been talking a lot.
Well, I think that, one of the problems that we have, especially today, is that we have the wrong definition of racism. People do think that they measure how, like, whether or not they're racist or not. Like, where do I fall on this 0 to 10 made up, like, spectrum of racism?
Cosmo quiz of racism.
Right.
We're making fun of this, but this is the sad thing. This is true.
It's true. It's true, because you think that is where we've gotten with racism. We think like, if I don't say the N word, I'm not racist.
I'm
You
good.
hear it like, I'm not racist. I have a black friend and we are cool. And I never, ever, ever have I ever said the N word.
We've
You're
got a
like,
black president. It's fine.
that is
He's like the second coming of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. We did that. We
Yeah.
checked the box. Let's move on. There's this
That's not
yeah, we want to check the box and move on. We do everything we can not to do the hard work, not to do the uncomfortable idea of the three of us sitting here and having a very honest conversation about this as three people who respect each other and just talking about it. People will do anything not to sit here and just have this open dialogue.
because the truth is that being labeled a racist is like a terrible thing. And
Yes.
it's so bad.
And I remember having this conversation with some students, and I think I've talked to this before at the podcast, but I think people are so convinced that their own lived experiences are give them the right to see the world the way they see it. Let me explain what I'm saying. So I was in the classroom and I was teaching this class, and it was a very small class, and it was for the kids that you would probably call the high flyers, right? So there's tension already, right? And of course, because educators can be stupid sometimes, they put all these kids in this classroom with me because they were the same kind of kid, right? Like, right? What
does
about
that
that?
mean? High flyer. What does that mean?
High flyers are like the kids in the school or even in the classroom that are the ones that are like, always getting the referrals, behaviors, like they're always on the radar, like everybody knows who they are. High flying meaning like they make themselves visible because of that. We're in this classroom, which is already, pretty tense, as it were, with that. And we're having a conversation about exactly this. And one of the kiddos in the classroom that's in the conversation happened to be Hispanic. The other one happened to be white. And we got into this conversation, and I was trying to be the good teacher and not be the sage on the stage and like sit back, let them have this conversation and only guide it when I could. And what they got locked into with was this whole blue versus black thing, right? Or blue versus brown thing in this particular case. And I remember thinking, okay, I want to step in and redirect this, but I don't want to be the person from the outside coming in and saying, no, you have to believe this. No, you have to believe that. Like, what can I say so that they can step back and reflect? And I remember saying to the white student, we'll just call him Alex, can you allow for the fact that Mario's version of events and how he sees his interactions with the police are colored by his interactions, and yours are colored by your interactions, and that they may put you at different places and have you see the same situation with a completely different lens. And to his credit, Alex said, took a beat, right? It's that wait time. I'm like, okay, they're either going to fight or we're going to get somewhere. And he said, I never thought about it that way. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, my work is done, right? Just giving people the chance to pause and reflect that their vision might be clouded, whatever you want to call it, by their own experiences. And it may not be what the other person has experienced. And I feel like that kind of concept on the stage that we live in right now is what is putting matches on bonfires. People cannot on both sides put themselves in another person's shoes because they feel like doing that means they're committing to some kind of ideology that they don't agree with, right? And we are so divided and so just on the opposite side, for lack of a better word, that we cannot find any kind of common ground anymore whatsoever. And in addition to that, not only can we not find common ground, but we have to be right. And we're going to shout at someone until they either give up and back out of the conversation or we can prove that we're right. And that has become the de facto way to be in this world. I have no answers. The next part of my comment is not like, and so we need to do this. I don't know where we go from here. I don't. I just know that if we don't start talking to each other and having hard conversations and being able to have them without somebody dying, we're never going to move forward. And I won't go any deeper than that. But.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so, thoughts and prayers, heartfelt thoughts and prayers to people who have lost someone because of this, right? This is not just about a single person. There are many. We should not be proud that there are many people in our history, our nation's history, that have had their lives taken from them because they've had a divergent thought.
Yep. 100%.
And that's terrible. But one of the things that I picked up on that as you were giving that example, Lisa, of your students, is that there was leadership in the room that created the space, that one facilitated a pause and then facilitated some critical inquiry and supported these two young people in this case. So bringing it back to the topic of allyship and womanhood, I think we can look at these examples and say, at least we have control of what we let other women see. Well, I should say young girls. What we let young girls see to be leaders that hold space for different beliefs, and also be the leaders that say we're going to model how to move with intentionality throughout the world and intentionality in partnership.
Okay, quick pause. Have we talked about the Pod Squad lately?
Oh, the Pod Squad. You mean our email list /VIP lounge /digital wine club?
Exactly. So listeners, if you're not on it yet, you're basically making life harder for yourself when it comes to podcasts.
Like trying to scroll for show notes while speed walking on a treadmill. Wait, what was that link again? Oh, no. Grab the side rails.
Or pulling up that book we mentioned while you're in the Starbucks line and then realizing everybody else moved up 3 cars and now you're that woman.
We've all been there. That's why we made the Pod Squad. You'll get new episode alerts every week with direct links. Easy to listen, easy to share.
And show notes straight to your inbox. So when we drop a life-changing product, book, hot tip, or yummy new drink, you're not rummaging through your memory like a woman searching for her reading glasses when they're on top of her head.
It's organized, it's helpful, it's for you, babes.
So join the Pod Squad. The link is in the show notes. Just tap it.
Snacks, sarcasm, solidarity.
And obviously, fighting the patriarchy.
We write at dawn.
As we kind of try to pull the pieces of this into, I don't even know if we can settle this. We will absolutely have Bri back if y'all want us to. I want to, because this is a massive topic that I think we've only just scratched the surface of. But I want to go back to kind of what you said about raising sons and raising daughters. And Karen and I have talked about this on the podcast, right? All 3 of us are raising daughters. Karen and I are also raising sons. And I feel such a responsibility to not only model and help shape my daughter's experience. I think Karen's daughter said it better than I can, in this idea of, I'm the you that you wish you'd been at my age, right? We feel that responsibility to give our daughter, I get chills, our daughters that leg up, that experience, right? But equally, I feel a huge responsibility to bring that to my son and help him to avoid being just a cog in that wheel of the patriarchy. How do I shape his experience so when he gets to that point where he's feeling like he's stuffed in this corner and made to be a certain way, he can be like, yeah, I don't want to treat women that way. That doesn't feel right to me. I don't like that. And make that choice. And I don't know if you guys have opinions about that, but I certainly.
I feel like the through line of all of it is what leadership. So whether we're talking about who's leading our country or who's leading our home, it's that, and that's what people, our children or citizens, are going to look to. How are the leaders handling these situations? How are they modeling things? Right. And then it's going to trickle down. And, like you said, Lisa, it's I don't know how to put a bow on this episode and how to wrap it up. But I'm just thrilled we have had Bri here, that we have had this conversation, and that we've opened the door to more conversations, because that's what we like to do on this podcast with Drinks with the Girls is have the hard conversations, talk about the things that people are not talking about. And this
Mhm.
topic is so important.
Yeah, I remember you said earlier, Karen, you talked about this moment in 2020 when you really went back to say, oh my gosh, I got to grapple with something. And I'll say for me, I've always wanted to, I can't say I've always, but there came a time where I realized that it's important to, and I'm also sending this message out to any Black listeners, Black viewers, Black women, Latino women who are hearing this, right? Like, we also have to hold space for our white sisters to come to us authentically. We are not here to doctor you through it. We are not creating a cushion for a soft landing, but I can create a safe space. That I can commit to doing, right? And this is so important that I make that distinction because I know I'm going to have some sisters out there who are going to be like, we are not responsible for anyone's growth. We're not responsible for anyone's growth. But I know that one of the things I saw very much growing up as well was sisterhood. My mother had friends. My mother, as disabled as she was, she had girlfriends. And they would come over on Friday nights and they would do each other's nails and they would drink beer. And it was just, and play music and they would celebrate one another and be there for each other when things got tough and divorces happened, when children were ill, when family members were lost. And I saw what sisterhood looks like. And that inspired me to also remember that I can have women friends who look all different ways from all different walks of life. And that makes my life with them, my experiences with them, so much more fun, by the way. It makes it so much more fun because I'm telling you, I have friends that are all boardroom, and then I have friends that are not in the boardroom.
Not so
And so
boardroom.
that's little. And it is beautiful. So I want to button this up too. Like, allyship is sisterhood. Allyship is sisterhood, and it starts inside of you. Do you want do you want sisterhood with other women? And if the answer to that is yes, then that's the full stop. You don't want sisterhood with certain types of women. Do you want sisterhood with women? And if you can say yes to that, then you are ready to be someone's ally. Sure, surely the second thing is you got to do the caring too. You may have to take a moment and unpack some of what you bring to the table. You may feel like I didn't know these things, but you should trust that your friend is a safe space for you to go to with true authenticity, right? Like true authenticity and genuine. Like, don't, this is not about, I want to touch your hair. This is not that moment. This is not that time. But if you genuinely want to go on your journey of unlearning and relearning, and you need an ally as well to do that, we should all be there for our white sisters as well, right? We are sisters in this. And then I guess the third thing that I want to say is, like, and you all seem to talk about this a lot, remember what keeping us apart is actually designed to do. It is not designed to fill our pockets up. It is not designed to empower us. It is designed to empower a system that will take us all down if it could, right? Like a system that is right now trying to walk itself back so that we lose some of the momentum, the successes that were born out of the hands, literally out of the hands and the suffering of the women who came before us. So that's something that we should walk away from here knowing, is that we are better together. And I know it's cliche to say that, but we are certainly more better and more powerful together than we are sitting on opposite sides of the table, carrying all of the things that we may or may not have been conditioned to know about each other. We will be more economically powerful as well as women if we were to ride with one another.
Yeah. And that's, I think that is what's created this inflection point, just to boil it all down, is people feel completely othered from everyone. Everybody is just in their little box, in their corner, and can't see a way to, like, even peer over it. and understand. And that's where we're at, where we are. We don't feel united. We don't feel like we're on the same page as anyone. I certainly don't know how to solve that, but I do know that I want to, that I don't want to be in a box. I don't want to have friends that are in a box. I want to be able to learn from everybody and be part of something that isn't just about who I am and what my experience is. And I feel like that's a start, at least, you know?
It's a start. It is a start. I would love to hear what your viewers, like what the viewers say about this, because I think the next step well, not the next step, but this is creating some productive dialogue.
There's space. I feel like this episode created some space. And if we did that, great. But yes, like we say, we love to hear from our listeners. And this episode in particular, like, we can take this wherever y'all want us to take it, but think of this as us creating that space, like Bri talked about. And so what do you all as listeners, what do you want that next step to be in that space? Like, where do we go from here? I don't know. Karen, do you have any last?
You know, if our listeners take anything away from this conversation, besides we are more powerful together than separate. But Bri, what you said about giving white women a little bit of like just grace, because I feel like what has kept me, like in 2020, when I was, you know, having this self-reflection moment, it's like I was just so afraid. I was embarrassed, and I was so afraid of how do I even talk about this? I don't want to open the lid again, but I
It's
want
part
our
two.
Yeah, this is the next part. But I think
Exactly.
I think just stating that, Karen, that's what it's about. It's like you felt trapped once you knew the information.
Yes.
You didn't know
And
where to go.
That's what I want our listeners, and I feel like our listeners can do that. Like I think that we try to shine lights on things that they aren't normally thinking about. But if you can relate with anything that I've said in my experience, you know, do not be afraid to learn more, to educate yourself. You know, I started following people that I could learn from, because like you said, it's not Black women's job to educate me on how our system has worked. Just don't be afraid. And don't be afraid to say, oh my God, I really messed that up. I'm so, you know, let me roll that back. Let me, you know, and just figure it out. I want all sisters united, you know, no matter what they look like. But in order to do that, it's like you have to look inside first.
I think what you just said, Karen, is something that I want to leave behind too in this space. Allyship is not math. And unless you're really good at math, you understand what I mean. Right? Remember that allyship is something that is very heart driven. So, from one of the things that I was taught as a good old Christian girl is to guard your heart, because from your heart comes your actions, from your heart comes your thoughts, from your heart is how you speak. And so I came up with my value system, a little mnemonic for my value system that I'll share. And it's very aligned to this. I talk about sisterhood and knowing that I want sisterhood. So it was interesting to me that when I took a look at what my values were, I was able to come up with a mnemonic that spells out sister, SISTAH. And that for me stands for the S. The first S is for scholarship. I'm an educator by trade. And so I believe very deeply in the power of education, and not just formal education, but this idea that we create spaces to learn. Right now is me modeling a value of scholarship, that I'm engaging in this space to learn from you all as well, and to share what I know for the purpose of learning. I is integrity, that we operate every day with integrity. We hold ourselves to a standard for integrity, and that standard should truly be based on the things you say you want. The other S is on stewardship, right? I am a leader of a corporate company. I am a mother. I'm a sister, and so in many ways, I'm a steward of those communities, and I want to operate in those communities, in those spaces as a model for what that looks like. The SIS, let's see, T, trust, right? I want trust. So I'm going to put myself out there and be vulnerable sometimes to establish trust. That means that I'm not always going to be comfortable. I'm not always going to be comfortable, but in those spaces of discomfort, I believe we can start building some more space for trust. And then we have accountability. So Karen, when you talk about um, make the mistake, make the mistake, because you know what's on the other side of the mistake? Forgiveness. If you can be accountable for your actions, on the other side of a mistake is forgiveness. On the other side of a mistake is understanding. But you have in between the mistake and forgiveness or understanding is accountability. And no one's going to forget what you've done, but we can come to a place of understanding if it appears like you too understand what you've done. And then that last one is honor. For me, that is very spiritual for me when I think of honor and honoring people. But I would say even if you are not a believer of a particular religion or you are a spiritual person, we can all kind of come around the idea that life is a beautiful thing and life is a privilege. And every day that we have that privilege to be up and in community with one another, right? We should take the opportunity to honor each other, respect the other person, operate with some dignity. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be a doormat. This does not mean you have to let anyone, take from you what you believe or what you know to be true. This doesn't mean you have to honor someone who is perpetually disrespecting you or dishonoring you. But it's the idea that as a value, what I have in my heart is that I want to operate every day with a respect for humanity. And I think you don't have to have my value system. Sister doesn't have to be your value system, but I would challenge you to think about what are your values and are they within your heart so that the way you function in sisterhood is a reflection of those values.
I don't know what else there is to say after that.
Nothing else you said, yes.
Like, follow, share seems a little pedantic.
Well, thank you, listeners, for joining us on this amazing episode. Bri, thank you so much for the dialogue and the conversation and the enlightenment. And like Lisa said, I think we definitely need to have you back because this conversation needs to keep going.
I'm bringing another drink. I'll bring a different drink.
Sweet. And you guys, we say this every time, and this we mean it this time just like every other time, but we really mean it on this one. Send us a message, DM us, tell us what you think. What are your questions? What do you think we should consider in this space? What are you afraid of? What are you proud of? What do you want to have happen? Like, it's going to take all of this. We talk about this community that we've intentionally created in Drinks with the Girls. And we had a lot of themes today that talk about community and shared ideas and shared experience. That does not happen just by osmosis. It just doesn't. It has to be purposefully created. So what can we do to keep purposefully creating community, whether it's community in mind with what we've talked about today or any other community? We can't do that without you. We need your viewpoints as well. So I, for one, am super excited to see what people say. And oh my gosh, thank you so much, Bri. Wow, what a wonderful way to spend an hour.
We had fun. It's fun. I like this. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you guys so very much.
Absolutely. And we are excited to have you back. So I'm just going to close with cheers. And we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.